Ever wonder what that weird graph at the top right of your develop panel actually means? That's your histogram. And once you know how to read it, you'll never second guess your exposure again. Hi, I'm Zach, and in this video, we're going to take the mystery out of Lightroom Classic's histogram. You'll learn what the histogram actually shows you, how to use it to improve exposure and contrast, and how clipping warnings can save you from losing important details in your highlights and shadows. Ready to break it down? Let's go. Okay, in your Develop module, the upper right-hand corner, you should see the histogram. If not, use the drop-down to reveal it. What this is a graph of the brightness values in your photo. Here's how to read it. The left side represents your shadows, the middle shows your midtones, and the right side shows your highlights. Each spike or bump in the graph tells you how many pixels fall into that brightness range. A big spike on the right means that there's a lot of bright areas in your photos, that may be too bright. A spike on the left, you've got deep shadows or possibly underexposure. Now here's the key. There's no such thing as a perfect histogram. It depends entirely on your image. A flat histogram isn't bad. It might mean that a balanced photo or a low contrast image. A photo taken at night is probably going to lean left. A photo taken in bright sunlight is probably going to lean right. The histogram doesn't judge, it just reports what it's seeing in your photos. You decide if the exposure is right for your intent. Here's an example of a well-balanced histogram. It's got a nice gentle curve. Nothing is too dark, nothing is too bright, but overall it leans towards the dark side. Here's an example of a photo with a lot of dark clipping. If you notice the blacks peak way over here on the left, that's all these dark spots back here where the sensor in my camera didn't really pick up any detail. And then I think I've got an example here where we're going to see a little peak over here on the right. What this is pointing to is the center of this flower. It is almost overexposed. If I had exposed it any more, I wouldn't be able to recover detail in that area of the photo. Okay, now let's talk about clipping. Clipping happens when you lose detail, when part of your image is either pure black or pure white. Once it's clipped, that detail is gone. To check for it, press J on your keyboard to toggle the clipping warnings. If you notice when I turn that on, it's warning me that this area right here doesn't have any detail for me to recover. A blue highlight on this, when you press J, means that the shadows are crushed and you're not going to recover any detail in the shadows. Red, which you don't see in any of this photo, but you would if there was overexposed areas, means that the highlights are blown out. If you see large patches of red or blue, that's Lightroom warning you, hey, you're losing data in this part of the image. This is especially helpful when editing portraits or landscapes, where you want to preserve the detail in your face or your sky or textured areas. Use J to show you where those exposed areas are in danger. Now it's okay to have some areas clip. A street light at night, let it clip. Sun flares, totally fine. The goal is controlled clipping. When you choose what is sacrificed, not accidental clipping that ruins your image, then you're in complete control. In this particular photo, I don't care that area is clipped. I'm probably going to highlight the flower here and darken the background anyway. In addition to that, I'm probably going to crop it, something like this, and we don't have to worry about that clipped area whatsoever. Okay, let's get back to talking about the histogram. The histogram does update in real time as you make changes. I made this crop at the end of the last section, and if you notice, when I make the crop, I'm cutting out these clipped blacks. And if you look at the histogram, as I make this crop, it's updating to what I cropped. When I click back to exposure, it stays there. So now I don't have near as much clipped detail. You can still see it right here in the corner. That's why I have this peak up here in the right. But then we see the center of this flower is almost blown out. That's why we have this peak up here on the left. As you make changes, the histogram will update in real time. Here's how different sliders affect it. When you adjust exposure, the whole histogram will move right or left. So if you notice, as I darken the exposure, those clipped areas move off the upper right, but they grow in the upper right hand corner. or excuse me, the upper left-hand corner of the image, but in the left side of the histogram. Contrast stretches the whole histogram out. It increases the gap between the shadows and the highlights, or it smushes them together as you lower contrast. Whites and blacks control the outer edges. You can easily introduce clipping this way, so be careful. But if we adjust whites, if you watch the right side of the histogram, that's really the only thing that's being adjusted, and the opposite with blacks. Now, here's a pro tip. When you are adjusting whites and blacks, hold down the Option key, and this will give you a live clipping mask of the details. This allows you to make fine adjustments and all the way up to the edge of where clipping occurs so that you can make the perfect adjustments. I don't have hardly any adjustments that I need to make in the whites, or excuse me, in the clipping on the whites. I can almost blow out this image, but it's still saying that these are not blown out. It's not the way I want the image to look. I actually want to lower that. But still, that option, and this is Alt on Windows, allows you to see this in real time as you move the whites and blacks sliders. You don't need to watch the histogram obsessively, but checking it as you edit helps you stay in control and create a more balanced image for your final result. And that's how to read the histogram and use clipping warnings to make a more informed editing decision. In the next video, we'll walk through how to export your photos from Lightroom the right way, whether you're posting online, sending to a client, or prepping to print. If this video helped you make sense of the histogram, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear if you've used clipping warnings before in your workflow, or if you use them in a different way than me, let me know.